At the Range is brought to you by Davidson's Gallery of Guns.
Jeff, we're sitting here, we got a gang of rifles, we got even more lights than we've got rifles, right? Now, a little bit of a disclaimer for our audience. We've got 2 lights on 1 rifle. We're not saying that that's the right answer. We're just got lights mounted in more than 1 position for discussion purposes, right? So when a guy figures out or comes to understand just how much of an advantage having a light on his rifle is, he's probably gonna come out and show up to one of your classes with something like this, right? This is pretty typical. Short forend on an AR with light in the mount that it came from and a tail cap. The clicky switch in the back. So, which is a good solution, right? If you got the option, always have a light. But if a guy shows up with something that's good, how do you get him to better invest?
So the first thing I try to do is I try to get them into a tape switch, using a tape switch. So, you know, tape switches just mount to the back end of they replace the clicky switch, as you put it. They give you the ability to mount this tape switch pretty much anywhere you want. And typically where we tell people to mount them is at the 12 o'clock position. So that you have access to it from both your left hand and your right hand.
Like right here, right? So if I'm right-handed, I can hit it with my left thumb. If I'm left-handed, I can hit it with my right thumb.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
If you transition from your right side to your left side, for whatever reason, you still operate your light. Easy day.
Right, and should be practicing doing that, so it's nice to have a light that allows you to do that. All right, so a guy, he gets the tape switch, right? The next thing to do is, my opinion, is the mount, right?
Absolutely.
Huge fan, we got Aerosocket mounts here. I like these because they're simple and they're effective and they don't cost a ton of money. 2 screws to mount to your rifle, and then if you look closely, there's 3 little inlets where you can make micro adjustments to your light. So you get it ballpark where you want it, and then you go like, well, I just needed a hair more this way. You can do that.
Absolutely.
So we got a couple of mounts. Like me personally, this is my ideal setup. Right? Tape switch at the 12, offset mount over on the right side of the rifle. Keeps the left side slick and the bottom slick so it doesn't interfere with my support hand, allows easy access. The reality is I'd mount it back a little bit further so if I went off the left shoulder, I could still hit it with my right hand. So, you know, before a guy just goes out and buys a light and a tape switch and a mount, like, what does he need to be thinking about before he just slaps it on his rifle?
So, positioning, like you discussed. You notice how I was listening to you talk about, I put it here for this reason. So what's the reason? To improve my shooting, to be able to use my light at all times. So there's pros and cons, you know, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and then at each of those like 10:30, 1:30 positions. I'm not a big fan of 6 or 12. 3 and 9, very popular. When you start to integrate aftermarket mounts where you can now offset to get them to the 10:30 and the 1:30 position, that really gives you the best of both worlds because that's reducing the barrel shadow that is created when that light is projecting forward. One other way to reduce the shadow is to make sure that you have, well, try to use a longer receiver or in some cases shorten the barrel. Those 2 scenarios are going to help to decrease that light. But when we're talking about like what's the optimal position, you're going to have to deal with some barrel shadow. Optimal position is so that you have the best vantage point with that light on the target that you're looking at.
Right, and shadow is long barrel, short forend, off to the, when you shoulder that and shine it, you're gonna get a lot of shadow off to the right side of the rifle. You got to move around a lot to be able to see. Once you get it close to forend, a lot less shadow.
Exactly.
One of the things to consider before, you know, mounting it, you want to mount it as far forward as possible. To leave working forend for you for positional shooting, doing whatever you need to do. But if you get it too far forward, you got to worry about carbon coming out of your muzzle device, right? It's not the end of the world if that happens. Take a pencil eraser, scrub it off, or if you can think about it ahead of time, you put a little chapstick on that lens. Clean up, it'll wipe right down. One last thing, you want to make sure that if you're using a tape switch, you got some cable management. You don't want it snagging on gear or on you when you're moving. And then, you know, I can't thank you enough for coming out and helping us out.
My pleasure.
We took a good solution and found out a way to make it better and best.